Welcome to part 8 of What If Deku Had the Omnitrix. Now, I think I'm going to start shooting videos in pairs of twos. So, usually I shoot one video, then move on to the next. But how I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot 2 parts of the same video. And then I'll post it later or schedule it to be posted later. Anyway, but let's continue. Now, this is the part 8 of What If Deku Had the Omnitrix. Basically, oh yeah, new movie coming out. Watch the trailer. Anyway, basically, what happened last part is, sum it up quickly. Deku blew up the Omnitrix. Oh damn, I forgot the post-credit scene. I'll just do it now. Post-credit scene of last part. Vilgax is floating in space with half his body destroyed as a black portal opens up. As Vilgax gets sucked in, Vilgax wakes up. Vilgax's eyes open as he's in a tube now. He's looking around like, what's going on? He doesn't say that. He's looking around like, where am I? As a face would come up to him in the shadows saying, you'll be okay now. He'd say, as Vilgax would say, who are you? As the mysterious person would walk out the shadows. It was Midoriya, but he was different. His hair was white, his eyes were white, and his skin was a little paler. As he'd say, I'm Albedo. It'll be a pleasure doing business with you. It would have been way epic if I did it last part, but whatever. Anyway, yeah. Deku got the official Omnitrix, and we're on our way. So, we left off where Deku and the gang are running through the stadium to try to avoid people, as Deku realizes something, is that Deku would have actually said they were going to attack us, as they'd be like, how? Because they already know their powers. As they'd be like, yeah, as every student would try to attack them, as the Class 1A would start to evolve, and Deku would turn into Terra Skin as he starts to spin around, creating a gust of wind and dirt blowing up. As, I forgot the dude's name, damn. I'm gonna call him S. S, the dude with the vibrating stuff, the S would be like, okay, they think they can hide from us. He'd say, I'll use my special move. As he touched the gun, he'd say, Tremor in Earth! As it would be a giant shake, and they'd actually be filled like an earthquake, as the entire area where they were destroyed. Deku would get up as he'd rub the back of his head. As he'd say, I got, distracted. Or he'd say, Deku would be thinking, maybe turning into an alien would be drawing attention to himself. As he'd start walking. And just while walking, like, something would happen and Deku's eyes would widen as a girl would have hit one of his buzzers. As Deku would be like, who are you? As the girl would say, don't worry about it. As Deku would basically try to open the Omnitrix. Now, this is the real Kimi. There's no fake Deku. Like, it's April 1st. April Fool. Oh shoot, it's April 1st. This is Kimi and stuff. Ah, that's why he did it. Sorry, never mind. This is going to be Kimi and such. But this is going to be Toga, as, Toga, she's trying to collect some blood from Jutsu or whatever. And basically, Deku would actually open the Omnitrix to try to transform, but Deku would look up as he was about to transform, but he would stop because she was gone, as Toga / Kimi would come up behind him as she starts saying what she was saying in the original, but some balls would come flying, and they'd be split up, and Deku would basically be dodging the balls, as Deku would turn into basically Spider Monkey as he'd start dodging. Basically, Deku would see Uraraka there as basically Uraraka was starting to fall, and Deku, with his quick thinking, as Deku would turn into forearms as he would punch the side of the building very hard as it start to shake and it start to fall as Deku would then switch. Ah, sorry, my ear. Deku would then switch into a big chill as he grabbed Uraka and he turned both of them intangible as they'd fly away. As Deku would then, as he de-transformed, saying that, they will be after her as Uraka would try to attack Deku, but Deku would slap the ball out of her hand, as Deku would have known that Uraka wasn't Uraka, as Cammy would reveal herself to be Uraka and such, as basically Deku would be like, oh, that's your quirk, huh? As Cammy would go to Deku, she'd scratch him. As Deku would back up, as he didn't even care what alien he got. He really just needed an alien. As Deku would actually get a new alien. As this alien was small and looked like a battery. As Cammy would go for an attack, but Deku would move out the way like he'd dash out the way. As as Cammy would grab Deku, as Deku would try to fly away, as Deku would actually end up splitting in two, and such, as Deku would start multiplying, as Deku would laugh, as if you can't tell, he's that one, he's a like Zapatron, Slime Bee, I forgot their name, but it's basically, those aliens from that one episode of Ben 10, the original, where like they went to that one town, and when Ben learned how to surf rocks with heat blast, yeah, it's those small battery looking aliens. Also the aliens from the first season of Omniverse. As Deku would start swimming around as he shoot a shock thing at her, but apparently, as she would get shocked, as basically, Cammy wouldn't be done as she'd get up as she'd rush at Midoriya, but a a piece of tape would be in between them, as Sarah would be like, Midoriya, what's this situation you've gotten yourself into? As or Uraka would try to touch Cammy, but Cammy would dodge as Uraka would feel like she noticed these movements. And basically, um, yeah, Cammy would get away, and Midori would tell them what happened. Now, they would have to come up with a plan. Now, in the original version, Deku had nothing to do with the plan. It was mainly just Zero and Uraka that did the plan, to be honest. But I want to change that. Basically, how this gonna work is Deku. It'd still be the same plan, just including Deku. And how it's going to work is Deku would turn into Diamond. No, Deku would turn into Big Chill, as he would turn intangible, as he'd go into the ground. While as Big Chill, Deku would freeze the ground, trapping people on the ground, as the people would try to get away, as Deku would turn into Echo Echo as he'd start screaming at them. Not too loud, but he'd just start screaming at them as he'd keep screaming at them over and over. He'd just scream at them. Meanwhile, Uraka and Zero would get everything in position so that way they wouldn't hurt anybody. As Zero would say, Deku, move out the way. As Deku would collect himself and move out the way as the rocks would fall down. As they'd be like, sorry, but we need a pass. As Deku would feel bad for them because they need to pass too. So Deku would just split up into Echo Echo and get two people out at once, as they would pass. As they'd go as Bako would be there. As Bako would say, good job. But Bako would say, good job, nerd. That watch really does come in handy, huh? Nice. Bako would basically like, you really do have a nice quirk with that omnitrix. As Deku's eyes would be like, That could be whoa, like, okay, whatever that's for. He's still kind of clueless at this point. Bakugo, what what had happened is Bakugo. Let me just tell you what happened because Bakugo's kind of crazy. Basically, Bakugo would always still be suspicious of Midoriya, as basically, mhm, even though everybody thought, Midoriya just got a new support item, Bakugo didn't think the same, and. Anyway, let's continue. Bakugo would still do some research, but he didn't have enough evidence right now. As they go behind, and this part is kind of irrelevant, to be honest. But we'll continue the next part as, we'll continue the next part as it's the beach part, or like the rescue part, as everything's destroyed, and they have to go looking, you know, this looks bad as the the person who's supposed to save gets on him. Deku takes him to the infirmary. While Deku turns to stink flies. He flies up to look for more people, but he hears an explosion, and at first he thinks it's Bakugo. But he thinks not even Bakugo would be that reckless. As he looks where the explosion is, as these men in black would actually start getting out, as Deku would think this is a villain attack, but he'd say, wait a minute, no, it couldn't be, as the big man who was Gang Orca would appear, as Deku would say, that's Gang Orca, this must be a part of the thing, huh? Deku would say, that makes sense. Deku would just fly as he tried to collect more and more people, as he would get back to see the villains around the evacuation shelter, as they would actually evacuate some of the people there, but the villains would start to destroy things, as Deku would say time for a super move, as Deku would switch to clockwork. Deku Deku called this super move rewind, as Deku would rewind the area of the evacuation shelter before it was destroyed. As one of the sidekicks would say, did this kid just screw with time? They'd say, I think he did. As they'd say, let's gun him. As Deku would transform into Chrome Stone to shoot them, as their cement guns start sticking. Deku would switch to forearms, wild mud, as Deku had an idea. There was one of his new aliens were good. He had an idea that one of his new aliens would work good with these cement guns, as Deku would turn into NRG, as basically they would start shooting the cement guns, but the radiation around Deku was just too much. But even though he was in the suit, you get it, Deku would then shoot a beam at them, as he shoot a beam at the ground, as the beam, wherever the beam went, the ground would explode, knocking them out. And Deku would say, it's the evacuation shelter, okay? I mean, Energy has like a weird German accent, sort of. As the person in charge would say, yeah, it's okay. As Deku would say, okay, I'm gonna go. As Deku would run, as he'd see more of Gang Orca's sidekicks, as he just knocked them out alongside the way. As Deku, while running, Deku would see basically a gust of fire and wind aiming for a kid. As Deku would see this, as Deku would turn into a jet ray as he'd run. No, Deku would turn into accelerate as he'd grab the kid and jump up in the air. As he'd say, "What are you doing? What are you two doing?" As it was Iwarashi and Inasa and Todoroki. As Deku would run in Inasa to basically a safe place, as Deku would run back as he tried to attack Gang Orca, but Gang Orca would see, grabbing Midoriya's tail as he'd slam him on the ground. Meanwhile, Todoroki and Inasa would have fused together, creating the wind and fire attack. That Gang Orca would be like, and such, as Deku would basically be like, Deku would turn into amphibian as he'd say, let's rumble, as uh Gang Orca would throw a few attacks, so Deku would dodge as Deku would wrap his like tentacles, I guess, around Gang Orca as he'd start to shock him. But Gang Orca would activate his Orca Wave, as he'd throw a punch. But Deku would transform into Goop as he'd be worthless as Gang Orca would use his Orca Wave on Goop's satellite dish as Deku would be like, I need to stop using this alien now. As Gang Orca would actually try to stomp on Deku, but he'd end up stomping on Diamond Head as Deku would touch the ground as he'd crystallize Gang Orca's foot. As Gang Orca would break out of this as he'd throw a few more punches as Deku Deku would turn into Armadillo as he'd actually he'd punch Gang Orca in the stomach as he'd punch him again, but Gang Orca would grab Deku's tail as he'd start to spin him around as he'd start dispersing the fire as he'd throw him as Deku would actually get up as he would run as uh Deku would run a swamp fire as he would throw a punch at Gang Orca, but the match would be over. Now, if you're wondering why that went on for so long, Deku had super speed and was able to move the S out of the way. So, he got there about a minute faster than in the original. Anyway, at the end, they would all end the results. Now, some stupid stuff earlier, but he did, fix the evacuation shelter. Even though there was no way to earn points, Deku would still pass with a good grade and a good thing. The only thing was that thing he said in the beginning, as Todoroki and Bakugo still wouldn't pass, and everything would go the same. As basically, Deku would send a picture to Grandpa Max, Ben, and his dad about his provisional hero licensing exam, and Deku would go to sleep. Now, I think I'm just gonna do the rest of season 3 in this video, probably 25, probably 20, past 20 minutes. Basically, Bakugo wouldn't have fought Deku. I do plan on making him do that, but not yet. As basically, Deku would be taking out the trash as Mirio would pop up, you know. And Mario would be like, hey yo, and basically Mario would say, you're that interesting first year I've heard about. I saw the sports festival. Your power's freaking awesome. As Deku would be like, thank you. As Mario would say, well, you'll see me later. As Deku would be wondering what just happened and he'll see you later. Anyway, the next day, Deku would basically be at school as everybody would be here and such. And basically, the big three would walk in, and Nejire would start asking questions, and Nejire would say, like, hey, Deku, like, how much did that support item cost? Because it couldn't be cheap, right? But then she'd move on, so that's the only thing different. And they talk about fighting. Now, basically, to sum this up, is Deku would have basically while Mirio was wrecking all the long distance fighters, Deku would have turned into gray matter to develop a plan, as he would have actually found out his quirk about warping, as Deku would actually have an idea. Deku, basically, what would happen is this. Deku Basically, Mario would pop up behind Deku as Deku would turn into NRG as he'd throw a punch, but, you know, uh, basically, he would have phased right through it as Mario would have punched the suit of armor that Deku was wearing as his hand would start to hurt. As Mario would say, he guessed that. As Mario would say, I think I have more fun with him later. Basically, he'd knock out everybody, yes, including Bakugo. As it just became a Midoriya list. As he'd say, so you figured it out. He'd say, as Midoriya would be like, yeah, I did figure it out. Basically, Mario would say, okay, I'll get serious with you, as Mario would actually activate about 10% of One For All. As he knew this kid was going to be dangerous, so Deku would say, bring it on. As Deku would say, hey, when you use your quirk, you let me, yeah, Deku would say, is the doubter's effect of you using your quirk you lose your bodily functions? As Mario would say, I guess you are smart. As you know, Deku would say, good, because I won't try, I won't change my transformation, because I actually want to test this alien too. He'd say, as you know, Mario would say, you want to test that piece of armor? As Deku would say, no, I want to test this alien, not the suit of armor. As Mario would say, what are you talking about? As Deku would come out of the suit, you know, with energy. As like it'd be the raw energy part. Deku would come out the suit as I want to test this. As you know, Mario would be like, okay, whatever. And basically, Mario would rush at Deku with blinding speed. Mario's already fast. But, you know, I'm gonna say with One For All, Mario would actually created another super move. He calls it Pop Goes the Weasel. No, he calls it Pop Goes the Mirio. As basically using the speed of One For All, Mirio like warps and tele like you know how Mirio like jumped up before he was about to attack Deku? Mirio basically does this constantly, and using the speed of One For All, he keeps on doing this. As his quirk is a little more advanced now. As you get it, he just keeps on doing it. As one second he shows up in front of Deku, the other second behind him, then like left him and in front of him. You get it? So basically, Deku would basically, Mario would go for an attack, as Deku would also go for an attack. Sorry. Deku would also go for an attack, as Mario would dodge, as Deku's hand would go right through Mario's face, as Mario would actually miss his attack. As Deku would say, I knew it. Your body might not I might not physically be able to touch your body, but your body is still there, and your body will still react to this radiation. He'd say, so let's keep fighting. And Mario would say, sir would like you. As Midori would be like, what? As Mario would rush at Deku, as you know, Mario would activate 15% of the fall, as he'd run to Deku, as he'd go to attack Deku, as Mario would would actually face with Deku's attack, as Mario would punch Deku in the stomach, as Deku would be wondering like why he's not phased, and it looks like he's gotten more faster, as Mario would start to punch Deku, as Deku would actually start to increase the radiation around him, which would make Mario a little dizzy. And Mario would then basically lariat like Deku, as Mario would say, yeah, that did sort of make me dizzy, but constantly dizzy. He'd say, as Deku would say, am I not powerful enough? As Deku would as Deku would look at Kaminari knocked out, as Deku would say, sorry Kaminari, as Deku would bite Kaminari's hand as he'd start to absorb Kaminari's power. As Todoroki would be like, shouldn't you step in, because this is starting to drag out. As Aizawa would say, I'll step in if I need to. As Midoriya would shoot an energy blast at Mario, and Mario would dodge this, but he was actually really starting to feel the radiation now, and he was starting to sweat, as Mario would say, I gotta end this quickly. Deku would start shooting the radiation out, as Deku would shoot the radiation out, as Mario would start to attack Deku over and over. And then he wanted Deku to get angry, as Deku would get angry as he'd rush at Mario, and Mirio would go into the ground as he'd appear right behind Deku, as he'd uppercut him before grabbing him and slamming him to the ground, as Deku would transform back into himself. And, you know, Deku would start to get up as he'd be like, ow, as Mirio would punch him in the stomach. As Mirio would be like, sorry, but that fight was starting to drag on out. That's a nice alien. I mean, sorry, that's a nice transformation. Although I don't recommend using it because that could actually end up hurting your teammates. But anyway, that was nice. As you know, Mario would say, "Whew, that was a good workout." As he'd say, like, he would explain everything with his work study and such, and that's where season 3 would end off. Now I finally just have one more season to do, and I'll probably do like 2 or 3 parts for this season. You know, should I do the gentle criminal arc thing? Cause lots of people skip that. Lots of people skip that. But anyway, yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Fun fact of today: Kevin is the reason why Ben quit being a hero. Like if you're ever wondering why, like Alien Force Ben put back on the omnitrix, Ben took it off because of Kevin. It's because of Kevin that Ben stopped. It's kind of ironic. It's because of Kevin that Ben stopped being a hero, and then Ben became a hero again to stop a weapons deal, or to find Grandpa Max, which involved Kevin. Anyway, that's the end. Basically, you won't see this part for a long time again, and I won't post this part for some time too. So I hope you enjoyed. Happy April Fools.